Good morning, everyone. I have uploaded answers to Friday's work. Here it is, but I've uploaded a PDF of that. Sorry, no, it's an image of that. So please have a look at that. Thank you for those that showed me their work. Good stuff. Before we move on then, here's an extra sort of holiday-based percentage increase question. I would like you to show me your answer to this question, and I'd like us to try and use the submit function on class charts. I haven't used it before, so I'd be interested to see how it works. So what I'm basically asking you to do is to pause the video in a minute, have a look at that question, answer it, and then submit your answer. Now I'm hoping that you'll be able to take a photo of your work so I can see, rather than just the number at the end, I'd like to see your method, ideally, and I'm hoping you're going to be able to submit that through class charts. Have a go. If you haven't got a camera, that's fine. Just send me an email with the answer. But if we could try using class charts and the submit function, that'd be really good. Listen, I know you're all really hardworking. All I'm after really here is a little bit of reassurance that you're engaged in what we're doing and then you're keeping up. So if you could answer that question for me and submit it using class charts. And so this is Monday today, so shall we say by Thursday? That'd be brilliant. So go on, pause the video and have a go at that question. Okay, so for the rest of today's work, I'd like to talk about two things. I'd like to talk about banks and I'd like to talk about cars. So banks firstly. Banks do two things. Banks let you save money with them, so you put money in the bank account, or they let you borrow money. So if you want to buy a car, or if you are a small business, you can go to the bank and borrow money. Now, of course, if you borrow money, the bank will charge you extra for the privilege. So they call that interest, and you will pay that back over an agreed period of time. Where does the bank get the money from? Well, it gets the money from other people who save money with them. So it's a bit of a circle, really. You know, some people put their money in the bank to save it, and the bank uses that money to lend to other people. And because the bank, therefore, is keen for you to save money with them, if you save money with them, they give you a little bit of a reward. We call that interest. They will pay you a little bit of a reward for keeping your money with them. That's often referred to as compound interest. Now, if you follow the news, you will know that interest rates have really dropped recently, and particularly during this crisis. You might like to investigate why that is helpful during a crisis. Why is it helpful to have interest rates so low? I might revisit that on Friday. But anyway, there's not a great deal of reward at the moment for saving money. But let's just go back a few weeks to when there was a little bit of reward, and let's look at some calculations involving interest. So here's a question I want to answer. I've got £2,500, I wish, and I decide I'm going to put it in a bank account, and that bank account pays 2% interest per annum. You may have come across that phrase before. It's from Latin. It means per year. So if I leave that money in the bank for a year, they pay me 2% interest as a reward for that. And the question is, how much do I have after 4 years? Now, I'm going to do it wrong, firstly. You might think, why on earth are you doing that? But this is not the way to do it. 4 times 2 is 8%. 100% plus 8% is 108%, and the decimal equivalent of that is 1.08. So all I need to do is 2,500 multiplied by 1.08 to get my answer. And that is wrong. And you might like to just pause the video at this point and see if you can get clear in your mind why 2% interest every year for 4 years is not the same as 8%. Okay, if you paused it and had a thought about it, well done. The fact of the matter is that at the end of the first year, you've got a little bit more money in your account. So the following year, 2% of that new amount will be a bit more than it was the previous year. And then after 2 years, you've got more in the bank account. And after 3 years, you've got more in the bank account. So every year, the 2% gets a little bit bigger because it's 2% of a slightly bigger amount. Now, I'll be honest with you. If you work out the actual answer in a moment I'm about to show you and compare it with the wrong way of doing it, there's not a huge amount of difference, but it is wrong. It is wrong. So here's how we actually have to do this question. I'm going to move down a bit. So we say, okay, I've got £2,500. And at the end of the first year, they've added 2% interest. So I hope you're happy with me saying I do that by multiplying by 1.02. That's 100%, not plus 8%, but plus 2%, which is 102%, which is 1.02. So that's how much I've got at the end of the first year. Does it say how much you've got after 1 year? It doesn't. So I don't need to write that answer down. But that is how much I've got at the end of 1 year. Now, at the end of the second year, they give me another 2%. So we've got to multiply by 1.02 again. See what's happening here? 3 years, 4 years. Now, I don't need to press equals at the end of each of those because it doesn't want to know how much I've got after 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. I now need to press equals, and that's going to give me how much I've got at the end of 4 years. And some of you will have already spotted that if you're good with your calculator, you can actually do that using the power button because it's the same as that, isn't it? So it is 2,500 multiplied by 1.02 to the power of 4. And I've just done that on my calculator. I always round money to 2 decimal places because that's how we write money, isn't it? So it's not 8%. 2% for 4 years is not 8%. You have to do it as each individual year, but you can speed that up by using the power button on your calculator. So here's a second question. Can you see the difference between this question and the previous question? This question says, how much interest do I earn in 3 years? Whereas this one, it says, how much do I have after 3 years? So I did this one correctly. To answer this one, I'm going to do it in exactly the same way as that one, but at the end, I'm going to have to take away the amount I started with. Slightly more complicated interest rate now. So 1.5% every year means every year you start with 100%, you add 1.5%, so you get 101.5%. And the decimal equivalent of that, got to be careful, 1.015. You don't get 2 decimal places in a number, so it's dividing that by 100, isn't it? 1.015, sorry, not percent. That's the multiplier, that's the decimal equivalent. So I'm going to say, right, £5,100 times 1.015, that's 1 year, times 1.015, that's 2 years, times 1.015, that's 3 years, or 1.015 to the power of 3. So 5,100 times 1.015 to the power of 3. That gives me £5,332. If I round it to 2 decimal places, I get 96 pence. 9597, but that's rounded. But that's how much I've got. The question said how much interest. Well, that's how much I've got. That's how much I've started with. So that is £232.96 interest. That's how much they've added on. That's their thank you for leaving my money with them. Okay, so I said I was going to talk about banks and cars. So let's talk about cars. Now I'm going to suggest to you that cars fall into 2 categories when it comes to maths. You've got normal cars that, you know, I drive and your parents and family drive, and then you've got vintage cars. Vintage cars, that means, you know, old or perhaps collectible or rare cars. And I'm going to suggest to you that vintage cars tend to get more valuable. So if it's very rare, then as it gets older, it's going to get more valuable. And the word we use for that is appreciate. Now, of course, that has another meaning, doesn't it? But in money, if we're talking about something appreciating, we mean it's getting more valuable. Sadly, most cars do not get more valuable, they get less valuable. In fact, my little silver car, whilst it has been sat on the drive unused over this period, the suspension has broken, so it has become extremely less valuable. In fact, it is now worth 0. But anyway, there we go. You don't want to hear about my hard luck stories. Getting less valuable is called depreciating, or depreciation, and it's quite a hard word to spell, as you can see. That was my second attempt. So we need to consider depreciation. Now, why am I doing this at the same time as banks? Well, banks were adding the same percentage on repeatedly. Well, depreciation is taking away the same percentage repeatedly. So let's look at a question. I buy a new car for £4,800. It depreciates at 12% per year. Every year it gets 12% less valuable. How much is it worth after 5 years? Remember, it is not 5 times 12. It's not 60%. Because every year it's worth a little bit less. So 12% next year will be a bit less than it was this year, etc., etc., etc. So instead, I firstly work out my multiplier, 100%, take away 12% equals 88. And then I do 4,800 multiplied by the decimal equivalent of that, which is 0.88. That's 1 year. That's 2 years, that's 3 years, that's 4 years, that's 5 years. If you've got a decent calculator, you can speed that up, can't you? And as always with money, I'm going to round it to the to-do decimal places. So my car is worth considerably less. Depreciation is very depressing because you can see the value of things disappearing, and in fact 12% is a conservative estimate. Cars will actually lose their value at a much faster rate than that. Okay, I've attached, as well as the solutions to Friday's work, I've attached another set of questions. The second page has got answers, so don't peek until you've had a go, and don't do all the questions. I've just picked out, if you look at the class charts description, I've picked out a few of the questions I want you to try. There's no need doing lots and lots of the same sort of thing. I'm sure you can grasp it. You've got the answers, but please email me if you get stuck or if I haven't explained it very clearly. I'd love to hear from you. But don't also forget that I've asked you to submit that other question, the holiday question, via class charts. I do hope you are all well. This weather has been something of a relief, but I do hope you are staying safe in it. Take care.